everybody! Welcome once again. And today, I've finally done it. It is the last of our Color Wheel series. Hooray! We're finally at the end. These videos took a little more work than some of the other ones I've done, but I'm glad to have done it. I'm glad we covered this topic. So, without any further delay, here is the last of our Color Wheel series, and it is going to be purple. Now, thematically, purple is a little bit messier than the other colors. Purple within the games world is known as Harmony. It's called Harmony because there's been a disruption on the east coast of Asia, so we've seen three different worlds combined into one. There's the real world, the spirit world, and the virtual world. Now, there are two major mechanics that purple contributes into the game itself. The first being stealth, where as minions come into play, you can't tell what they are. And the second mechanic is the items. Basically, they're just a piece of equipment that you can put on the minion that you just played, or you can put on a different minion. They can grant things like overrun, they can grant damage boost or piercing, or they can even do some healing. So just different abilities you can play on your minions. And purple, as regards as to where it fits on the spectrum, whether it's aggressive or whether it's controlling, I would have to say purple is more mid-range color, but not in the same way orange is mid-range. Orange kind of has the mid-range value built into all of its cards. Cards like To Heaven and Back, or Sign of Pride, or Parry at the Gates. Purple is kind of by law of averages. Some of the cards are really aggressive. Cards like, your Sword Saint, or your Hoarding Hero, or Racer in Shadow. Other cards are really controlling, such as your Rogue Eidolons, or your Jinsuk Dollmaster, or Spirit Away, cards like that. And the way it kind of averages out, it averages out to be kind of mid-rangey, but it doesn't have like that mid-range value baked directly into cards like orange does. So even mechanic-wise, purple is a little bit scattered. I know it has the reputation of being one of the weakest colors in the game, but is that true? Is purple better than people make it out to be? So I guess the best way to find out would be to play a couple of games and see how purple does. Now, for one final time, I'm going to run through the deck before we dive into the action. Of course, if you want to check this deck out for yourself, I will leave a link in the description below. I don't have too much to say about this deck. This is a list that I put together. I kind of built it around this guy. This is a Hoarding Hero. He's a 2/2, but whenever you put an item on him, he gets +2/+2. So I'm going to play a whole bunch of minions that give out items. Then hopefully we'll get a Hoarding Hero, drop a bunch of items on him, and then smash our opponent's face with it. And I also don't have a whole lot of stealth in here. I know stealth is one of the main mechanics that purple offers, but stealth I don't think is a very good mechanic. It doesn't really offer any evasion or anything like that. And the experienced opponent is going to kind of be able to guess what you're playing out anyway, so not a whole lot of stealth in here. But our path is going to be Journey of Souls. Since we're playing minions that give out items, I'd like to be able to recur them more than once. And the power is going to be Impel. Then we have 4 copies of Racer in Shadow. It's a 2/1 with Rush. It gets banished at the end of our turn. So ideally we want to crouch this into opponent's minion. And that way it goes to the Boneyard instead of being banished. Then we have 2 copies of Samuzin. Samuzin gives out a healing potion. The healing potion restores 3 health to a friendly minion. Then we have 3 copies of Steam Bun. Steam Bun will put a Squire Pike into our hands. And Squire Pike gives a minion +1/+0 in piercing. And piercing just means it'll ignore an enemy minion's armor. Then we have 2 copies of Ghost in the System. Very good aggressive card. When it comes onto the battlefield, we'll be able to look at the top 2 cards of the opponent's deck. We'll pick one to put on top, one to put on bottom. So hopefully we'll pick a very good card and a very bad card. And the good card can go to the bottom, and the bad card can stay on top for our opponent to draw next turn. Then we have a good control card in Red Cliffs. Whenever a minion is created in this lane, it deals 1 damage to minions in opposing 3 lanes. And as long as this is occupied, it'll suppress Rush on the enemy's minions. So overall, it's a good card to kind of keep down the aggro decks, especially red, which has a lot of Rush minions. And 4 copies of Sword Saint. It's just a 2/1, but it puts a biting blade in our hands, and the blade gives a friendly minion +1/+0 and life tap, so very powerful card indeed. Then we have the aforementioned Hoarding Hero. We have 1 copy of Misfortune. It gives an enemy minion Fragile 3 and Demise, deal 1 damage to its controller, return Misfortune from the Boneyard to its owner's hand. So it's kind of an indirect removal spell, but one that we can recur over and over again. Then we have 2 copies of Metamorphosis. We'll transform an enemy minion with 5 that costs 5 mana less into a 2/2 electric sheep, remove all its abilities. So this is a good way to take a large minion and strip it down to basically nothing. Then we have 1 copy of Rogue Eidolon, one of the best control cards in all of Mythgard. The minion in the opposing lane will have its power locked to 0. And Rogue Eidolon is only a 1/5, but it can attack into that minion, and it has Blast 3, so it will deal damage to the adjacent lanes as well. Then we have 3 copies of Shinobi of Wind. This does have stealth. It also has teleport, which goes very well with Impel as our power. So we can hop this around on the battlefield, and when it breaches, it does 2 damage to anyone, so we can hit our opponent and then take out one of the opponent's minions, or just deal further damage to the opponent. Then we have 2 copies of Back Alley Ronin. The Ronin is created with 2 more strength and 1 more health if we deal damage to enemy players this turn. So ideally, we'll get in with our attacks first and then play out the Ronin. Then we have 2 copies of Balance. We'll draw a card for each minion our opponent controls. 1 copy of Pentacle Flavors, which is basically keyword soup. We'll give minion Armor 1, Focus 2, Regen 3, Slayer 4, and Blast 5. Then 1 copy of the Man, the Myth, the Legend, the Master of Shadows. It's a 1/1 that's immortal and deadly. Other minions we control get stealth, which is not very useful in itself, but just a 1/1 that's deadly as well as immortal can be very useful, can shut out enemy minions very quickly. And there's 2 copies of Spirit Away. Very good control card. One of the most diabolical control cards I have ever seen. This not only tucks a minion back into the opponent's deck, but it also turns it into an 0/3, so it's just a dead draw when the opponent comes back around to it. So very, very good removal. 3 copies of Tarragon. It's a 5/6 that drops an Adamant Pearl. The Adamant Pearl gives a friendly minion +1/+1 in Overrun, so another excellent piece of equipment. Then my personal favorite in this entire game is Jinsuk Dollmaster. Dollmaster is a much more subtle type of control card. We can move enemy minions around on the board. It can give an enemy minion -2/-2 to kind of trim down their larger minions or get rid of some of the smaller ones. And if we get to its ultimate, we get branded with return a minion to its owner's hand, so it can just bounce stuff right back in the hand. So excellent, excellent control card overall. And then finally, 2 copies of Lantern Colossus. Just a big old 5/7 with Overrun. We also get an an Immolation Cloak with it. And the cloak does, when we put it on a minion, it'll do 2 damage to the minions in the opposing 3 lanes. So another good item to have. And that's a good look at the deck. Now, let's get into the action. Okay, our Game 1 opponent is Chan playing green-yellow control. And our opening hand is a straight flush. We've got stuff to do all the way up to turn 6. It would be nice to have the Hoarding Hero, but I'm certainly not going to complain, so let's roll. Now, I could play out the Racer and Shadow here on turn 1, but that's not a minion you ever want to really attack into the opponent unless you're swinging in for lethal. The reason for that is if Racer and Shadow doesn't die by the end of the turn, it gets banished anyway. So you'd rather crash into the opponent's minion, that way it goes to the Boneyard, and with Journey of Souls as our path, it's more ideal that it goes to the Boneyard. So I just played out a Sword Saint there, that's going to put a Biting Blade in hand, so setting ourselves up to gain some life. Alright, opponent just impelled their Kolobok, so that's going to go up 1 energy, so they're definitely going to ramp up 1 when it dies. Alright, Shinobi of Wind. Plan is to attack the opponent and then use the Ninja Stars to take out the Kolobok. But that's a Night Hag. So now that Shinobi is stuck until the Night Hag dies. Alright, Razor and Shadow, we'll take out that Kolobok first. Play a Biting Blade on the Sword Saint. We'll get in for 3 and gain 3. Then Razor and Shadow. I'm going to hit the Night Hag with that Razor. We're going to get 1 right back because of Journey of Souls. Also, I wanted to attack into the Shinobi, so it'll die, but the opponent's going to pump up Night Hag anyway, so good move by the opponent. But we get the Razor back, so that can take out the Night Hag. For now, I'm going to play Hoarding Hero. But I should have put the Hoarding Hero over further, because, yeah, that's Enchant Eater. That's 7 health at the moment. So, yeah, I should have played the Hoarding Hero over further away. Make the opponent choose which one of our minions it wants to block. Alright, Red Cliffs. Our opponent's not aggressive, and their minions are a bit too large for it to really do anything, so that's an easy burn. Tarragon. So now I'm going to make the opponent choose which minion he wants to chase down. He goes after the Hoarding Hero. It's probably the right move. Alright, Flamespar, so there goes our Sword Saint. So that Pearl is going to go on to the Tarragon. Just get in for 6 here. Keep pressure up on the opponent. Alright, Ghost in the System. I had a choice between the Vilha Wind Fury and the Sovereign Architect. I don't want a bunch of 2/2 agile minions to deal with on the board, so that's why I put the Wind Fury on top. And that is a Mavka. I can never remember the name of that card. That has Deadly, so we'll have to deal with it. Unfortunately, we have my favorite, the Jinsook. So let's just for now sweep everything away. We have a bunch of life that we gained, so so we can take a bit of a beating here. Alright, Bob Bonsai Vekiro. Draws a Murder Street. That's not going to be enough to destroy Tarragon, and we have a Spirit Away, so the opponent needs another blocker here. And they don't have it, so Spirit Away Bob. And get in for lethal. So that was a game where the Hoarding Hero plan didn't come into play. Never really got off the ground. And instead we had to wait till the mid game when we can get into some of our control. And the control kind of won us the day. You saw Jinsook showing how powerful it can be, sweeping everything aside, clearing a path for our Tarragon to get in. Then when they did put a blocker in front of the Tarragon with Bob, we were able to spirit that away to get in for the lethal. So we relied on a little bit on the control side of this deck to be able to get in. But that's what purple does. It's either very aggressive or very controlling. And in this case, it was a control that went out the day. So let's see what happens in the next game. Alright, our second game opponent is Gall's Gall, playing Mono Green Reanimator. If you recall, when I did green for the Color Wheel series, I also did a Mono Green Reanimator. It's a ton of fun. And our opening hand is not good at all. We have a couple 1s, couple 2s, couple 6s, no real mana curve, but as per the usual, there's nothing we can do about it, so let's just go. And turn 1 here, I'm going to put out a Steam Bun. That'll put a Square Pike into our hand. Now our opponent can activate their power right away because it doesn't cost them anything because they went second, but they're going to elect not to. As you can see, they don't have anything in their hand they really want to put in the Boneyard to reanimate. Alright, Ghost in the System. The choice is between Serenity Sea Witch and a Rewind Hex. I obviously chose to put the Rewind Hex on top of the deck. Has a lot less value against us than the Sea Witch. So, good value out of the Ghost there. Racer Shadow going to take out Mavka. Most importantly, that's going to put Mavka on the bottom Boneyard, which is not a huge threat. Opponent's going to play Hopeless Necromantic. So that'll bring back Mavka when it dies. And we got a Hoarding Hero. So I'm just going to put the Square Pike on it. Make it a little bit bigger. Hopefully they won't have an answer for it. Opponent's going to flip the disc. There goes Indrik Beast into the Boneyard. So it makes me think they have a second Hopeless Necromantic. They actually don't. But as you saw there, they were able to find one. Alright, balance. Just going to draw a couple of cards here. Put the Biting Blade on the hero, and let's go to town. So we'll get in for 11 on the opponent. We'll gain 8 life off the Hoarding hero. Alright, opponent gets in for 6, but we have enough of a cushion. I'm not too concerned about it. Alright, that's the second Hopeless Necromantic, so that will bring back the Indrik Beast from the Boneyard. So I want to let the opponent attack into me. If I attack into the Hopeless Necromantic, that means the opponent can attack with Indrik Beast right away on their turn. I don't want them to be able to do that. A Flame Spar, so that's going to be able to start picking stuff off. Opponent gets in for a bunch more, but again, we have a nice cushion here, so not too concerned just yet. And Lantern Colossus is the right play here. That has overrun, so that can help break the stalemate. Alright, Flame Spar takes out the Sword Saint. Then we'll get hit for 2. Then they'll attack for 6. So we gained 8 life off the Hoarding hero. We're down to 7, so we'd be dead if not for Hoarding hero. But we also drew a Sword Saint, so let's just load up our Lantern Colossus. Put the Biting Blade and the Square Pike on it. Excuse me, the Squire Pike. Alright. Get the opponent down to 2. We did 6 damage to the opponent. We gained 7 life off the Colossus. They'll finally attack into the Lantern Colossus. But we have the Racer and Shadow. And if you recall from the last game, I said you don't want to attack into the opponent with Racer and Shadow unless you have lethal. Well, we're going to be able to do that here. We'll use Hoarding Hero, take out Indrik Beast, swing it for 2. And Racer and Shadow got the job done. So the first game was all about getting to the control side of the deck. Able to use our control to win the game. Here it was more about being aggressive and also about using our equipment. So we got to load up the Hoarding Hero, get in for a ton of damage with him. And we also got to load up our Lantern Colossus. We were able to use the overrun to break through the stalemate with it. So that's just a couple different aspects that Purple brings to the table. Overall, a good showing of what it can do. So after playing several games with Purple, do I think it deserves better than its reputation gives it? Honestly, no, not by a long shot. Purple, I think, has well found its reputation of being the weakest color. Thematically and strategy-wise, it's just kind of scattered all over the place. It's not as cohesive as the other colors, but do I think it's a bad color? Not necessarily. I think it does have its uses. If you're trying to play a control deck, Purple has some pieces that can contribute to it. If you're trying to play an aggressive deck, it has some pieces that can contribute that as well. If you're playing Purple as the main color, it's a little all over the place. But if you're playing it as kind of the secondary color in the deck, it definitely has some useful pieces. It can contribute to the overall strategy. So Purple has some interesting mechanics to it. Even the developers have kind of admitted that it's really not that good a color. They do say they are planning on buffing it up in future patches, and I hope that is the case, because I do think there's some interesting things going on. I would like to see Purple perform better, but overall as a color, it tends to average out to being kind of a mid-range color, and it can definitely contribute some useful pieces to your deck if you're looking to go either aggressive or controlling, or even some mid-range in there as well. So that is it for the Color Wheel series. That's the end of this series of videos. I hope you guys enjoyed them. As always, I appreciate like and subscribe below. I may do another series at some point. I mean, there's definitely different topics I could cover. There's, different tribes in pretty much every color. There are also the, different archetypes, control, mid-range, aggressive, and combo. I mean, that's another topic I could cover as well. So if you have any suggestions for a future series like this one, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to take it into consideration. I'd love to know what you guys think. And thank you for joining me in this series. I will be back tomorrow for yet another Casual Tuesday. And we should have ladder time once again on Thursday. So we'll have 3 videos up this week. Should be a good week. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.